And even good morning, folks. Subhash here.
Hey, Subhash. Good morning.
Good morning. Folks, we'll get started in a minute or two. Thank you. All right, folks. So let's get started. So last week, I think we spoke about the testing. We initiated the discussion about testing. But before I deep dive into the next steps, I think I want to go ahead and take a quick look at the assignments. Only just 3 or 4. There's four people uploaded. Not good. see what. All right. Janice, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I did this. I have to honestly say I underestimated the amount of time it would require to do this, and I don't have MS Visio, so I tried to create the flow diagram on Word, and it turned out to be a complete disaster because I wasn't able to print it halfway through.
Okay.
But I did take the template from online, and I tried to act as if like this was the company that I was plugging in all the information for. So I did it for one of them, but I definitely, like I also made a user interface diagram and everything, but I just, it got really confusing for me as to, because there were some things that I just didn't figure out what I had to do over there, and I should have started much earlier, definitely started much earlier.
Okay. What did you use to come up with this?
I used Axior for the interface diagram. That I was able to download. My problem is that I have a Mac, and whenever the color was supposed to be light.
Don't tell me you said it's a Mac, so I know what problems you'll face.
It's just, it was a pain. I was like, it took me 2 hours to make that really simple diagram, and I was just irritated with myself more than anybody else.
All right. Okay, Sarah, I think I will not be able to open this. If you could copy this and paste it in there.
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay. So if you can paste it in take a screenshot of this and paste it, I'll not be able to open it.
Sure, I'll do that. Just letting you know that my flowchart is a mess as well because I had previous Visio and it's already expired. It's not letting me download it again.
All right, let's blame the software.
No. It's a mess. I have to redo it again. It's a mess. And I did not do the flowchart for our digital maintenance key. I have to do that again. I mean, I have to do it.
Okay.
When you do it, Subhash, it looks so easy and it's very easy to understand. But then when we sit down, or at least when I sat down to do it, I was just like, how do I put all of this information in the correct format the way Subhash does it? He makes it look so easy.
It's just practice. You keep doing it, you'll get there.
It looks so easy. I thought it was so easy. Even like I thought it was so easy, and I underestimated the amount of time it takes, and that's the same with me.
Yeah.
I had another question. So with Sarah's, I saw Sarah's work. It's really nice, and I really liked it, except I had a question. I thought we were supposed to download templates, or was I mistaken? I thought we were supposed to take a template, like an actual template from somewhere, download it, and then plug our information in it.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Instead of saying word, we can say text, right?
Sure.
When you're describing the user interface, it's all text. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I think this is good. Wow. The arrows are actually kind of dancing all over the place.
I was really irritated while doing the flow chart for the authenticate client.
Okay. So first time you land on this page, okay, you see the failure try again button. Okay.
For the other cancel button, I was confused why there are like 2 cancel buttons when both the buttons did the same thing. So
Yeah, there was no need for it. That was a design flaw.
yeah, I was thinking about the same thing.
Although if you don't mind, can you mute yourself?
Hello? Hello?
Yeah. Alright, so let's see what we got here. So this is key maintenance, right? This is the user status description. Where are the designs? Did you come up with the design?
Yeah, I came up with the design. I did it in the Xshare, but I did not. I'm like creating a new Word document and pasting the screenshots right now.
Okay. If you could copy paste it and re-upload this here, that will be great. I'll take a look at it.
Sure.
But I think it's good. With the exception of those flows.
Thank you.
Yeah. One more. Assignment, yeah, that's fine. The same assignments that we went over. I thought everybody is on the same page. Are we yes? Is it a yes or no? Huh? Okay. No, it is not a, see, displaying maximum result of 35 in a page, this is not a constraint. Rahul? Okay, it is not online. Rahul, are you online? It is not online then. Okay. So let's move on with the, I'll review the other assignments eventually and I'll give you the feedback. So, yeah. What I asked you is to download a template, and for whatever the assignment that I gave, I asked you to write a BID. So, okay. All right. So let's continue with where we left the other section. So after we picked up our testing class, and as part of the testing, we said that the objective of testing basically is to ensure that all the issues or defects in the system are identified. And also, as part of our process, we said that it is very important in the IT industry that every product, every software that has been manufactured is thoroughly validated, right? So in the process of testing, software testing, when you initiate any software testing, there are two types of testing. One is manual and the other is automation, right? So manual testing is all about testing the software manually. You validate the system, you interact with the system, and you make sure it is working as expected, right? And automation testing is testing the application using different automation testing tools like QTP, Selenium, WinRunner, Loader, and so on. Remember, as a business analyst, the reason why we are trying to understand testing is you will also be involved in some testing. Okay. Now, remember, you will not be involved in any automation. You will only be working on manual. You will not have to learn any tools, any technology. Okay. And the objective of testing is to make sure that the software product is working as expected, and also to identify all the defects, right? We want to make sure that it is working as expected and there are no issues or defects in the application. And what is a defect? A defect is any deviation from the requirement. If the product is not behaving as expected, or if the issue or the defect can be defined as if any issue that is deviating from the requirement can be defined as a defect or a bug. Okay. Now, in order to test the application, what would you need? What is the primary understanding that you have to have? You need to understand the requirement, right? You need to understand the requirement based on which the software or the product was developed. Okay. So let us say if I give you any chair or a table and I ask you to test, you need to know based on what was the table manufactured. Right? You need to know the requirement. Right? You need to know what is the size, what are the dimensions. You need to know all the details. Without knowing all those details, you will not be able to. So, in other words, you need to know the requirements thoroughly in order to. And when you're in the process of testing, you will find the defect or bug. Okay. Now, every defect will go through a life cycle. It is called a defect life. A defect life cycle is a life cycle that every defect goes through right from it is identified. So as a BA or a QA, you will be involved in testing. You'll identify the defect, and once you identify a defect or a bug, then the objective of identifying defect is to fix it, right? So every defect will go through a life cycle, right? And here you see, as soon as the defect is identified, someone reports the defect, right? The status of the defect is open. I repeat, as soon as the defect is identified, the defect status is open, right? Now, once the defect is, assuming that it's a valid defect, then it is assigned to a developer. So, as soon as the developer or a programmer looks at the defect, he starts working on it, right? So, as soon as they start working on it, then the defect status changes from open to in progress. In progress means work in progress. Someone is actually fixing the issue. Someone is working on fixing the issue. And followed by, so once the developer fixes the issue, the defect status will be fixed or resolved. Right? Saying that we are going to update the status as fixed, stating that we have fixed or resolved the issue. And once the issue is fixed, then technically the testing team or whoever has reported the defect will retest the issue, right? So once they retest the issue, then there are two possible outcomes. The testing is either success or failure, right? If the testing is successful, then the issue will be closed. Defect will be closed. But if the issue fails, for example, if the defect was not fixed properly, then it is going back to reopen. Okay? So there is a difference between open and reopen. Open means first time it never went through the life cycle. Reopen means it has been fixed, but however the testing has failed and it is, again it needs to be taken care of. Alright? So technically every defect will go through this life cycle, right? Now normally in the IT industry when the testing team is actually testing the application, let us say there are 10 testers, a group of 10 QAs who are testing, quality assurance analysts who are testing, and on a daily basis, let us say each QA finds 10 defects. So within a span of a week, I would say each QA has reported around 80 to 100 defects, right? So at the end of 1 week, all the 10 QAs together have reported around 700 to 800 defects, right? Now, the objective of reporting a defect is basically to make sure that it is taken, right? Now, and then again, how do we track and manage this? We should have a mechanism with which this whole defect life cycle is managed and tracked, right? So we have defect management tools. Now here, this is not a testing tool, remember. This is not a testing tool. This tool is only for managing your defect. Okay.
Of the 5 defects. Now, all the 5 defects will be open in one defect life cycle or 5 different life cycles?
See, if the testing team has identified 5 defects, then they will have 5 defects that they open separately. Yes, that's a good point. Actually, I want to stress more on that. Normally, sometimes what they do is they identify one defect and they put 3 to 4 observations in that. They say, okay, this is not working, this is not working, this is not working. Okay, and normally what we recommend the testing team to do is to create one defect for each issue. Rather than just putting everything in one place, we always recommend them to put them separately, because there may be multiple developers who may be responsible for fixing the issue. A simple example, when I was working in one of the banks, so there was a defect, and the defect says login issue, okay, and in the summary, in addition to the login, they reported some issue on some accounts also, okay. So now what happens is, technically there are 2 issues which were combined together, right? There was one developer who was working on login. He claims that, oh, this is not my issue, this is accounts issue, and the accounts guy is claiming that, oh, this is not my issue, this is the login issue. Ultimately, nobody is looking at it, right? So we want to segregate. That's the reason we always strictly enforce the testing team to report if there are multiple defects, report them separately, so that we can easily track and manage them, right? And also, what happens is, so for instance, let us say there are 2 issues reported in the same defect, and one of them is resolved, but one has failed, but he's still going to reopen it, right? So again, we are tracking the same defect, 50% is fixed, but again it's reopened. So it is basically becoming very difficult to, track these defects and manage them. That's the reason, wherever I worked, I've strictly enforced that the testing team basically reopens each defect separately, rather than clubbing all up. Yeah. I don't get it. I'm not sure if I understand what you're saying.
I'm saying, what if the problem is more than a defect in my
Whatever it is, I don't care. I mean, I found an issue, I reported it, and whoever has to fix it will fix it. That's not my problem, right? If they have to rebuild it, let them do it. I don't care. My job as a BA is to make sure that I identify the defect, I report. Yeah.
So testing as the progress in the project or only
the testing basically starts as soon as there are releases. Every software release is planned. You'll have a development start date. You'll have a testing start date and date. So everything is predefined and planned. The testing stage only starts after the development is complete. Yeah, Hina.
I have a question. Like,
yes.
If when the defect is reported, what do the BA analysts do at that time? Do they document the defect?
You have a lot to do. Okay, so basically your question is, what is the role of a business analyst when the testing team reports it? I'll tell you a simple example of what I used to do. So as soon as the requirement gathering is complete, business analyst has nothing else to do apart from managing this. Okay, so my job as a business analyst, I was working closely with the technology team, and on a daily basis, I used to set up meetings with the testing team. So we had around 15 to 20 QA teams back in India, right? So by every day 9 o'clock in the morning, we used to have a meeting, and they used to send the report 5 minutes or 10 minutes before the meeting. So the report will contain all the defects they have identified, right? So I used to start the call, and I used to start reviewing each and every defect. Identify to start with the priorities on the priority, right, on the severity. Identify each and every defect, understand what it is, and make sure that it is a valid defect. So some instances, the testing team, without even knowing the requirements, they go ahead and report it. As a BA, having said that, I have written the requirements, I should be able to validate whether a defect is really correct or not, right? So there could be false alarm as well. So my role basically was to validate the defect on the call, review all the defects, and let's say if there is an invalid issue, then put it back to them. Make sure they understand, and also sometimes if they need some clarification, give them clarification on the requirement, and take away all the open defects and assign it to the respective development team. Okay. And if the developers have any questions or if they need more information about the defect, so sometimes the developer basically says that, oh, you know what, I developed it based on your requirement, and the testing team says that no, this is not working. So in those cases, I have to kind of deep dive, investigate, identify what the defect is, look at the description details, test it, validate it, and judge who is right and who is wrong. I mean, normally there is always debates between technology team and testing team. Saying that what is a defect and what is not. So I think you will basically play liaison in that area as well.
I have so the BA should have all the knowledge of the testing tools, or it is just that he's documenting all the knowledge, all the information from the technology.
First of all, a business analyst is a business analyst is never involved in automation testing. Okay, so let's rule that out. Number two, when you talk about testing tools, a business analyst should be aware of defect management, right? A business analyst should be aware of requirements, what he has written. A business analyst should be able to, having said that he has documented the requirement, he should know what is right, whether the defect that is reported is, whether it is a valid defect or invalid defect. I think most importantly, he should know the requirement. Right.
Is that kind of like how it's like how then?
See, so when you are coordinating the defect activities, it's not, you're not, I would say, yeah, you are as good as an SME, right? Because having said that you have documented the requirement, you are as best SME. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you probably are not a project manager, but yes, you are a subject matter expert who basically knows the requirements. Yeah. Moving on to our defect management. From here, I think coming back to what we were where we left off. So the testing team is reporting, n number of defects. It becomes really difficult to manage all these defects because the objective of reporting this defect is to fix it, right? And the tools. Now remember, these are defect management tools, not testing tools. Learning these tools probably will take you around 10 minutes. If you learn one tool, I think you can just play around with any tool. I mean, I have worked on Jira Quality Center. I have never worked on Buzzilla or never worked on Rational Studio. So many. But if you give me any tool, I'll figure out what to do. Having said that, I know what is defect management, defect life cycle, and also every defect. As I said, the objective of reporting a defect is to not only identify the defect, but the main aspect is to fix it, right? I mean, we are spending so much time and money on testing it, right? Just identifying the defect is not going to help. We have to fix it, right? And in order to fix the defect, the testing team has to communicate what they have identified, how they have identified. They have to give the complete set of details to the development team, because if the development team doesn't understand what the defect is, then they will not be able to fix it, right? See, if you go to a doctor saying that I have a problem, if you just tell him I have a problem, can he help you? No, right? You have to exactly tell him what is your problem, right? Where is the issue? If you do not describe it in detail, forget about doctor, even God cannot, right? So communication is very important in this scenario, right? And there are situations where the testing team reports defect, the description is not clear, the documentation of the defect is not clear, and the development team comes back saying, we don't know what you're talking about, can you explain us? Again, the testing team reverts back. So the time that has to be spent on fixing the defect is actually being spent on trying to understand what the defect, right? We don't want that. We don't want to waste time. We don't want to waste developers' time. We want to tell them this is exactly what the defect is, go ahead and fix it, rather than just giving them preliminary basic information and having them come back again and again and then waste time. We cannot afford to do that. In order to avoid this kind of issue, in the real time, every defect should be documented in detail, right? And when you are documenting a defect, you have to associate every defect certain set of attributes, information. Attribute means information, right? So when you're documenting a defect, you have to associate each and every defect with certain set of information. Let's try to understand what that information is. What information do you have to technically capture as part of each defect? To start with, every defect should have a defect ID, description, summary, issue. Then we also have the reporter, assignee, due date, severity, followed by priority. What else could you think of? Functional area, then fixed version, affected version. Of course, we have the defect status, fixed version. Then we also have the description, attachments, and attachments and comments. And also, I think one more thing that we need to look at is defect resolution. Okay. So when a BA or a QA is reporting a defect, anybody is reporting a defect, I think this is the set of information that has to be documented with every defect. Whoever is reporting the defect, so for instance, if a QA team is reporting it, they will document it. As a business analyst, if you have identified a defect and you're reporting it, yes, you will go through the. Normally, a business analyst is in between the testing team and the development team most of the time. But every organization may have a different task.
Documented it. Can they directly send it to the developers?
Okay, so you said they found this and they documented. What happens is the defect management tools that I have listed here. So here the testing team is actually log into the defect management tool, and they're going to they'll have a button which says create a defect. And the moment they click this create a defect, it will open a page and it will prompt the user to enter all the information. Can you visualize it now? Yeah. All right. Yeah.
When suppose QA reports defect and BA just passes is on as it is to the developers or the like modified and then pass it down?
See, when a QA department is reporting a defect, if the defect is detailed enough, normally what I would do is I would basically look at the defect and if the defect is clear description and valid, then I'll pass on. And if the defect needs some more inputs, I'll go ahead and I'll document the defect.
Be able to put it in, or you will send it back to the
I would put it if required, because what happens is, let us say if the testing team is back in India, right? You're reviewing all the defects during the daytime, and you assign it back to them, saying that okay, you did not document it properly. See, if I know what I have to do, then I'll go ahead and update the defect and assign it to the developer. If I have no clue of what this defect is, then I have to wait, right? But always, if you can get the job done, get it done. Normally what happens is when you report this defect, I think we can also talk about one more field. It's called as participants. So let's go ahead and review each and every attribute, and then we can discuss if we have open questions. Okay? Okay. Yeah, what did you say? Let me go ahead and finish this, and then we'll take up all the questions. Okay. Defect ID. Every defect will has to be tracked uniquely, and as soon as you create a defect, normally what happens is when you are using these defect management tools like Jira Quality Center, once you click this new create new defect and you enter all the information and you click create, the tool will automatically, the defect management tool will automatically assign a unique number to it. Whatever format, doesn't matter. It's going to assign a unique ID to the defect. Okay, which is called as defect ID. Defect ID is always important because with the defect ID you are going to track and manage the defect. Okay, for tracking purpose. Summary. Summary of the defect basically refers to the higher overview of what the defect is on. So by reading the summary, you should be able to understand what the defect is on. Kind of a BRD of the requirement. You have to let me go there. Yeah. Now, they sound, summary and description sound same, but they are different. I would say summary is like a BRD, description is like an FR. If that's what you want, I'll get there in a moment. But summary basically is a high-level description of what the defect is about. Okay. So, for instance, let's take a simple example. You have so the defect is you have a valid ID. You have a Gmail account. Okay. So you have a valid ID, and you have invalid password. Password is not valid. Okay. I mean the password is valid, but when you're trying to log in, it says incorrect details. It's not letting you. Okay. Let me repeat the scenario. You have a valid ID and password. You are entering the right ID password, and you're trying to log in. It's not working. It's not letting you in. Okay. So this is the issue. Okay. So tell me, how would you summarize this in one line?
Name and password.
Okay. Anybody? Simple. The client is not able to log in with valid field. Simple. And or client authentication failed, with the valid login field. Whatever you think is valid. See, as I said, right, there are 100 ways of documenting. As long as you're able to communicate the message, you're fine. Yeah. Okay. So reporter. Reporter basically is the individual who has reported the defect, who has identified and who has reported the defect. And assignee is the individual to whom the defect is assigned to, and he's supposed to take the defect to a resolution. I mean, he could be a developer or whoever it is who is working on it. So, for instance, let us say if the defect was reported, it's assigned to a developer. Okay, now developer feels that the defect is invalid because he thinks that he has done it as per the requirements, but he doesn't understand why they are saying it. So technically, he cannot close. He cannot say he has fixed it. What he can do is he can assign it to the business analyst. So he can reassign. So in this case, the business analyst becomes the new assignment. Right? He's basically assigning it to the BA and he's saying that, what, I have assigned this to you. I don't understand why these guys are saying it's a defect, but as far as I know, this is valid. You let me know. You figure out what it is. You tell me, and you get this to a resolution. Now, once the whoever has identified the defect will assign it to the appropriate individual. It could be.
Does it go to the development and he assign this data, or do directly assign to the?
See, every organization has a process. Very good question. Every organization has a process. The situation could be all the defects could be assigned to a business analyst, and a business analyst will probably reassign it to the respective technical leads, and the technical leads will reassign it to the respective devs. This is one process. Or the testing team will assign it directly to the testing leads, or they directly assign to the developers. So the process can change depending on the organization. Every project has their own process.
In this scenario, one document will work, or since it is being reassigned, it will be like a new document.
There is no document here. There is only one defect, one scenario. It gets reassigned. That's all. The name will keep changing. That's all.
Only the assigning name.
Correct. That's all.
Particularly the situation that the assignee is saying, no, I did it right. Because I doing it here. This is right. I don't want to send it to the lead. I'm sorry. I'm just checking out.
No, that is right. So what happens is, so his question is, the developer basically says that I fixed it. I don't know what's going on, and I don't care what they're doing. What if they are coming back and they are arguing that they have done the right? The assignee is basically defending himself. So what I would do is I would see, normally what happens is the development team sometimes become aggressive, because they are working on strict deadlines. They become aggressive, and as a BA, you always have to calm down. You just cannot react. So for every action there is a reaction, but in this case, you cannot react and you cannot get upset because somebody is not happy about it. And a business analyst has to have a cordial relationship with every individual in the team, because if the team is not cooperating with you, then your life basically is going to be messed up. Okay, so irrespective of how the audience treat you, I would say just there are things go wrong and people get upset, but again it will come back to normal, right? So what you should do is you should basically take a step back, have one-on-one with them, understand what the issue is, talk to them in detail, where the issue has gone wrong, what is the actual and resolution, and you can get anything to resolution. You just have to be diplomatic about handling things. That's all.
Probably document it properly, or can you have a joint testing session like with one developer?
See, for instance, what happens is the developer will claim that he is not able to find it. So you can basically sit with him and show him where the defect is. Yeah, and also there are situations where I have tested the defect which was reported. I was not able to find it. So what I did was I set up meeting with the testing team, I ask them to share their screen, and I ask them to replicate it.
There's a difference of opinion in testing to avoid.
Yeah, you could do several things. Whatever, at the end of the day, you have to bring it to a resolution. Okay. Now, next one, assigning as due date. Due date is the date before which the issue has to be fixed or resolved. Right? And normally, the developer themselves they assign the due date, or the technical lead will assign the due date accordingly. Severity. What is severity? Severity basically is the measurement metric which indicates how badly is this defect impacting the system. How severe is the impact of this defect on the application, on the class. Okay.
You said that the lead will decide on due date, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, you're bringing a lead now in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say reporter reported it, so the reporter gets the due date from the lead, or who gets the due date?
The reporter, when they are reporting, they normally don't assign the due date. Yeah, I'm a QA, right? And I tested it, and I am reporting a defect. How can I assign a due date? I'm not fixing it, right? See, I'm asking you to construct a house.
Mm-hmm.
You have to come back and tell me how much time you would need to construct the house. I cannot come and tell you that, okay, this is what I want, get it done in 1 month. Would you be okay with that? No, right? Same is the case here.
I'm still not clear who's lead, where the lead comes in the picture. I mean, he's getting the screen, you send it to him, and he's setting it to due date.
What happens is, as soon as the defect is reported, there is a list called participants in the bottom, right? So when you include them, they will also get automatic notifications, and they will know. And also, they will log into this defect management tool, and they will keep checking what are the defects that fall under their umbrella. Okay. Okay. So coming back to the severity. Severity basically is the measurement metric, or it basically is a measurement technique which specifies how badly is the issue or defect impacting the application. All right. Now, severity basically is measured in different levels. To start with, blockers or showstoppers, or step 1, severity 1. Critical, very high. Severity 2, medium, or high, or medium, or you can say major, or severity 3, minor, or low, or cosmetic. Okay. So the severity levels with respect to a defect can be associated in different types. To start with, the topmost severity is a blocker or a showstopper, or severity 1. Okay. A blocker or a showstopper basically is the highest level of severity, and this indicates that this is a very serious issue. Okay. A blocker indicates that the user is not able to move forward, and without this issue being fixed, we are dead in the water. Okay. Let's take a simple example. the other scenario that we spoke about, right? You have valid credentials and you are not able to log in. What kind of severity would you assign it to? So we have a valid credentials, you have valid ID password, and you are not able to log in. Is it a blocker or a critical or medium?
I think it's a blocker.
It's definitely a blocker.
It's definitely a blocker because user is not able to move forward. If you're not able to log in, you cannot access any part of the app, right? It's blocked. Okay, blockers. Another example. I have a bank account. I logged in, and I have 2 accounts, but I'm seeing 3 accounts. The third account, which is a credit card which doesn't belong to me, is showing some information. It's a defect, right? So tell me what kind of defect would you classify this as? It's a blocker, or critical, or medium?
I'll say medium or major.
Why is it a blocker? It's not a blocker because it's not stopping. How is it stopping you? It's showing you one more account, but it's not stopping you from doing whatever you can do, right?
I say it's a
Why
critical.
Is it a blocker? Yeah, from a compliance perspective, yes, it's a blocker, but from a user perspective, it is not a blocker. It's a critical. It is a critical because technically by compliance, you're not supposed to share the account information with some others.
Let's say you're doing part, it's showing up there. How could it be critical? It's just
no, it's somebody else's account.
Oh, somebody else's account. Yeah.
That's not different. That wouldn't be a defect. You did not listen properly. Okay, and any of the links or the buttons aren't working properly. The help section, which is least important, could be medium, and any spelling mistakes, alignment issues on the screen, background color issues, all that will be under the minor or lower perspective. We'll talk about. Now, there is another important reason for determining the severity, because let us say in a given day, there are 100 defects reported. Okay. Now the development team may not have time to fix all the 100 defects, right? So what they do is they fix the defects based on the severity. They identify the severity of the defect, and they, let us say out of 100, 10 are blocked. So they start working on the blockers first, then the critical. So based on the severity, they normally define the priority as well. So here, let's talk about the priority. Priority could be like very high, high, medium, low. So again, remember, see this severity levels. These vary. They can call it as a blocker or showstopper depending on the tools that you use. Okay. So for instance, Jira, which is a defect management tool, it will have an option which says blocker. Yeah. You go to quality center, then the highest level severity says showstopper. But both of them mean it. Okay. Now the priorities definitely are derived based on your severity. Right? So going by the same example, let us say there are 100 defects reported, and out of which there are, let us say, 20 showstoppers. Right? So out of these 20 showstoppers, how do I prioritize which one has to be fixed first? All are showstoppers, right? But there should be some priority set up. Right? So what I would do is, based on the severity, I would set up the priority. And again, by looking at each and every defect, login, for instance, yes, very high. So it's the very high priority. So in this way, you prioritize the defects based on your severity. And for each defect, you analyze it and you put the importance. Okay. Next, functional area. Functional area or functional component. This is also one of the very important aspects of the testing of the defect. A functional area refers to the functionality that has been impacted by this defect. I repeat, the functional area or functional component of a defect refers to the functionality that has been impacted by this particular defect. So, for instance, the login, right? I try to log in and I'm not able to log in, right? I have a user ID password and I try to log in and I'm not able to log in. So this issue is with the login functionality. Normally what happens is when you set up this application, you try to dissect the whole application into functionality, right? So normally you have, let's say if you are talking about the banking application, or let's talk about the work with example. So we had search option, then we had authenticate client option, we had digital key maintenance option. Like if you go to any banking site, login is one functionality, then accounts is one functionality, then funds transfer is one functionality, right? Statements is one functionality, right? And if you are testing the, or if you are looking, or if you are testing the accounts module, and you find a defect, then it basically is part of the functional area is accounts. Let us say you are transferring funds, and transferring funds again there could be multiple functional areas, right? You could have funds transfer internal, funds transfer external, funds transfer external, right? So again, you subcategorize. What happens is normally when you set up this defect management process, you will have a meeting with the testing team, and you will let them know that okay, the whole application is divided into these functional areas. So if you find a defect in login, put it under the login button. If you find a defect in its transfers, make sure you put it in the right bucket, because we have internal transfer, we have external transfer, we have international. So they have to put in the right functional area, because the reason why we have to do it is, let's say we have around 5 developers, 100 defects report, okay? And the defect report is sent saying that okay, these are the 100 defects, go ahead, take a look. Now we have 5 developers, and first developer is working on login, second developer is working on the irrespective of the number of users, doesn't matter. So there are 100 defects reported. We have 5 developers and 10 QA, right? Now if I publish this 100 defects to the developers, each developer is working on their own modules, right? So I'm a developer working on login. I wouldn't be interested in seeing any defect other than login, right? So in order to understand which defect out of these 100 belongs to login, I have to look at each and every defect, right? But technically, I'm only worried about login, and out of these 100, I have to keep looking at each and every defect, read it, and understand, okay, this is not login. I don't want to do it, because it's going to waste my time. So what we are asking the testing team to do is also associate this functional area in which they have identified the defect. All the developers have to do is filter this report by the functional area and start, looking at it, right? So out of 100, when I filter by, let us say, login, I will see that okay, there are only 10 defects. So all I'm worried is 10 about those 10, and they have to assign the right functional area. If they don't assign it, then let us say, I'm working on login, and some accounts defect is coming to my queue. It's basically not a login issue, but they put it as functional area login, and they put it in the login queue. I'm going to look at it. I know this is not my defect. I'll ignore it. Normally developers do that. Or they'll send a message to BA saying, okay, this is not my defect. Assign it to the right person. So these are coordination activities that you have to do. You have to go update the defect with the correct functionality. And again, when it goes to, and again, there is again a fight between developers also, claiming that it doesn't fall under their area. Okay, so again, you have to kind of try to act as a referee and balance the situation. So moving on to, is there any questions on the functional area?
Let's say, comes to the BA, right? And there are 100 defects reported. So, one BA cannot handle all this, right? So
why not? Why not?
100 of them?
Why not? Why would you say they cannot handle 100 of them?
No, I'm less than 1,000. 100. No, 1,000 is too much. Okay. So, how many BAs? Let's say there are 2 BAs. Who gets to do this? Do what? The for this assignment.
So what happens is, as a BA, when you were documenting requirements, let us say there are 3 BAs or 4 BAs. Okay. The whole project will be divided into modules. The functional area
In the center.
right?
Okay, in the center.
Okay. And you will be assigned, let us say you are a PA and you worked on documenting requirements for login, accounts, and transfer. All I would do is, I would focus on identifying all those defects, review it, assign it. Because I know the end-to-end process. So I'm only worried about all the defects reported under my function. That's normally how it works.
Okay. Now, who gets to get what? Who decides that?
The lead or project manager will assign. Sometimes you can also step up and ask. Okay. Moving on to the defect status. What are the defect statuses? We already spoke about them, right? Open, in progress, fixed, resolved, by close. We have open or clear. Okay. So normally when on a daily basis, I used to send this defect status report to the whole management, business, everybody. And normally most of the managers, they always were looking for defects which were reopened, right? So there are 100 defects reported overall which are open, out of which 30 are reopened. So 30 are being reopened. That means that the development team is not doing a good job, or the testing team is not doing a good job. Right? Somebody is not testing it properly, somebody is not fixing it properly. So from a management perspective, because they are redoing the same thing again and again, the defect was reported, it was fixed, it was reported back as fixed, but it was opened again, reopened. So basically, they have gone through the cycle, because and which means that we have spent time and money on taking care of it, but it's still coming back, which is not a good sign. So the developer, the development project manager, they will emphasize on ensuring who exactly is the developer, where is the issue, is the issue with the developer or is the issue with the tester. So those are things that as a BA you might have to investigate, find out, if the BA is not, if the developer is not doing the right job, let us say he's agreeing that, what, it's my bad, let me fix it. Or the testing team, they did not test it properly, and they say, it's our bad, we'll close. But end of the day, due to someone's mistake, we have the count increasing. We don't want to see the issues reopened after it's fixed.
backfire on the BA also. The first testing, with the requirement gathering.
That happens. You basically need a scapegoat, right?
In your situation, when you were in a company,
Oh, you used to have at least 10 to 20% of reopened cases. And the moment an issue is reopened, I used to get annoyed. It's annoying because I have to take a look at it again, right? I have to again, and you know what? One more thing. The funny part is, when a defect is resolved, right? As a QA, I basically test the scenario, right? Make sure it is working. If it is working as expected, technically I'm supposed to close it, right? But what happens is, let us say if I'm testing this defect, it is working, but in the meantime, in the process of testing it, I find some other defect. So what I'm going to do is, I'm still going to reopen it and put some more comments saying, oh, you know what, this is not working. So end of the day, the defect is still reopened. However, it was reopened because of some other issue. So here, we always used to tell the testing team, when you are testing a defect, test the objective of your defect. What did you report and what are you testing? We used to make it very clear that if you find a defect, reported it, you test the same defect. If you find it is fixed, close it, and if you find a new defect, go ahead and open a new one. That's fine. But you cannot reopen the same thing again and again, saying that we have found this or that. That's not going to work.
Subhash, I have a question about this.
That you have to kind of put a strict control. I mean, in spite of you telling this, they keep doing it again and again. So you have to police them. This is one of the BA jobs. Yeah.
My question was just what you just said, that you have to put the QA has to put the objective, and on that basis, the defect is ongoing. Like you found a defect, and then when it was fixed, well, that defect was fixed, but a new one was open. Where do you report this objective? Because do you report it in the summary? Or is there a separate heading for it?
Which objective about the new defect?
Yes.
Probably in the summary or description.
Oh.
In the description.
Okay.
Yeah, Hina.
Do we give them a new new defect ID when a new
yeah, so technically, we will ask them to close the defect and ask them to open a new defect.
So basically, the first defect will be closed, and then the new will start as a reopen.
Correct.
Okay.
The actual defect, if it is resolved, it will be closed, and if there is a new defect found, then we would ask them to create a new one.
Okay. What if actually after testing the previous one is not being resolved? Then what, they go through the same procedure, or it just happen as a reopen?
No, I did not get it. Come again?
I'm saying, what if the first defect is not been resolved? It was still.
Then you reopen. What if you think it's not working, then just go to reopen. But
okay.
If something else is not working, don't reopen this issue. You close this. See, whenever the testing team is, or whoever is testing, they have to look at the objective, right? Okay. They have to look at the objective of what the defect was, and why was it created, and was it really fixed?
Got it.
Defect ID will change for every defect. If you create one new defect, it will have a new defect number.
There was one defect. Even if the open,
no. If the defect is reopened, see, the moment a defect is created, the ID will never change. Whether you close it or reopen it, it's never going to change. ID will remain the same. You get social security number 1 to your life, right? Irrespective of whether you stay in this country or not, you go out of the country, come back, you still have to pay SSN. Correct.
We have a new one in there.
Correct. You create a new defect and you get a new one. Correct. Anybody has questions on what we spoke over?
I had one more question.
Yeah.
So, to my understanding, I'm a BA, I can work as a QA, but let's just take an example that the QA is in India or someone else. When they initially report a defect, do they report it to me in a Jira software program that I directly get, or do they give me like a Word? Okay, that's what I want to know. Okay, thank you.
Every testing, every defect reporting is via defect management. Okay, and it makes it very easy. What happens is this system is configured. Whatever testing tool that the defect management tool that they're using, it's configured in such a way that you probably will get email, or once you log in, you will see you can find out all the open.
I think in one project it is already decided what will be, or different people use different tools.
Okay. Any more questions, folks? Okay. The next part is the affected version. Affected version and fixed version. And you know that every software will have a version number, right? All of us are aware of it, right? Is it a yes or no? Every software will have a version number. Okay? Even the iOS, Apple iOS, it has a version. Your Windows will have a version. Office has a version. Right? Every software will have a version number. Okay? And affected version is the version of the software which has been affected by the defect. So, for instance, let us say I am testing version 2.0 of the software. Remember, right, before I release it to the customer, I am testing software which is version 2.0, or iOS 8.0. Okay, and if I find a defect, then the affected version will be 8.0. Got it? Questions? Okay. So now we have affected version is the version of the software which has been affected by the defect. For instance, if I am testing version 2.0 and if I find a defect, then the affected version here will be labeled as version 2.0. Okay? Software version. Right. Software of the application. Correct. Software version of the application that we were testing. That's correct. Yeah, if we are implementing a new browser, then yes, it's a version. See, Internet Explorer, right? It has several versions: 9, 9.1, 10, 10.1. So if I am testing browser 10.0, then the defect, and if I find a defect, then it is version 10.0. So what I mean by the version here is the version of the software that I am testing. Okay? Okay. Fixed version. Fixed version is the version of the software in which the defect has been fixed. I repeat, fixed version. fixed version is the version of the software that has been, in which the defect has been fixed. So for instance, let us say Apple has released version 8.0.1. They gave you a patch, right? So what's happening is once that is installed in that software, in that version, they found that there are a lot of call drops, right? In 8.0.1, they found that there are a lot of issues. Now what are they going to do? They're going to fix that version, and the moment a change is made to that version, it's no longer the same. It becomes 8.0.2 or whatever the next version. The moment you update a software, the version number is no longer the same. See, version 8.0.1, let us say, has 10,000 lines of code. Probably you have changed something in that, right? Now, when you changed it, you cannot say it's the same. Right? Now it's 8.0.2. So the fixed version, they're going to fix it, and they're going to label it as 8.0.2, right? And they're going to push it as your software in your software update. And they'll ask you to install 8.0.2. So the fixed version of the defect is 8.0.2. The product can go live and it can still have defects. It can still, you are the customer, and I released the iOS 8.0.1, and after releasing it, we are finding so many issues. Even if the product is not delivered, I'll take a simple example. Let us say the development team is working on the development activity. Let us say there are 50 features that they want to develop and release. They will not develop all the 50 features in one day and then release it, right? It's step by step. There is a release process in it. On day one, they will, as per the plan, they will implement, let us say, 5 features, 5 functionalities, right? And they'll release their version 1.0. Okay? Now, whatever the defects that were identified as version 1.0 will be fixed eventually.
The fixed version can be different for the internal user and the client. So
it could be, see, here,
but there will be the fixed process.
Here, let us say there were 50 defects reports. Okay? Out of these 50 defects, I can only fix 20 for the next release. Right? So, the fixed version for those 20 defects will be 3.0. There is no rule that all the defects will have to be fixed in the next release, right? There is no rule. No, there is no rule. There is no rule that all the defects has to be fixed immediately. Let us say there are some minor issues. I don't have time for that. I can release it. The fixed version for the remaining defects could be 4.0 or 5.0 or whenever they decide to fix it and release. The version numbers are predefined by the organization. Or you can, as a DA, you can also recommend. Any questions, folks?
I have a question. So the versions on the fixed version, does it have to be the defects from the affected version?
I don't get it.
Like you said, the fixed version are the versions of software which has been whose defect has been fixed, right? So does those defects has to be mentioned in the affected version, or does it go independently?
No, I'm still not understanding the question.
Okay, so let me explain it the other way. So, are the versions of the fixed version dependent on the affected versions?
No. No, I just said that irrespective of when the defect is identified, which version it is, it could be on 3.0 or any version, depending on the severity of the defect.
Oh, so if we find another defect on the fixed version, we don't need to mention that in the affected version, right?
Okay, so let us say if I have fixed and then I release the software and now the version is 3.0. So if I am testing 3.0 and if I find a defect, then the affected version becomes 3.0, right? And the fixed version could be 4.0 or 5.0, whatever.
Oh, okay.
Very simple. If I am testing a software version and if I find a defect, that is the affected version, right? And that particular defect, when I resolve it, and and depending on which version of the software that is being released, I'll put the fixed version of the respective defect.
Got it.
Got it?
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
But the question is here, all the attributes that we talked about so far make sense. But the question here is, why do we need these two things? Why do we need to know, or why do we have to associate a defect with a affected version and fixed version? That's the question. Anybody?
I think because we cannot fix any defect before the defect has been recognized or identified. So we identify the defect on affected version, and then we work on those affected version and name it as fixed version.
Yeah, I agree. We got it. But why do I have to capture these two attributes when I'm documenting the defect? Is the question.
I think we have to segregate them.
To segregate them? What segregation are we talking about?
To have a version number for every defect.
So we can track it, right?
Progress of the defect life cycle also.
Okay, let me explain. So you are a QA, I am a developer. Okay, so you have reported that there is a defect. Okay, and for a minute, let us say that we don't have affected and fixed version. For a minute, let us assume that we don't have these. So you have reported defect. I am a developer. So now what I did is I'm working on my machine, and I fixed the defect on my machine. Okay. So from my perspective, the defect is resolved. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and update the defect management tool. So from my perspective, it's resolved, right? I tested it. Now I'm going to say it's resolved. So the moment I resolve it, but what I did is I did not even push the code. I did not push the code to the testing team. What I did is I fixed it on my machine. From my perspective, it's resolved. Okay. And what I did is I go to the defect management and tool, and I'm going to update the status as resolved, because I resolved the issue. Okay. Now, just because the issue is resolved, what is the testing team going to do? They're going to go to the same software and they're going to test it. And what is going to happen? It's fail. It is going to fail because the testing team doesn't know on which version is it actually fixed. See, I have fixed the software, but I did not release it, right? See, right now I'm working on 8.0. I'm updating 8.0. Testing team is also testing 8.0. If I say I have fixed it, but I did not give them the code, right? I have to give them the next release. So when the testing team is testing the defect, they have to look for two things. One, they have to make sure that the defect status is fixed. Number two, they have to make sure that the fixed version of the defect is the same version that they are testing. If the fixed version of the defect is 3.0, can I retest it in 2.0? No, it will not work, right? So it's an indication to the testing team that okay, just don't go blindly with the fixed version, the defect status. Also look at the summary, the fixed version when you retest it. So it's an indication that, and again, in spite of telling this, right, the testing team, the moment we resolve it, they go test it and say fail. They don't look at the fixed version. So these are issues that as a BA, which could be annoying, and you have to set up meetings with them, let them know the process. And of course, there are several new people, freshers, even experienced people make mistakes. So all these are things that you have to deal with. Yeah.
So let's start one. Let's start to protect the
Make sense? No question is stupid question. Words. Okay. So question is, who decides which defect will go in which fixed version? Right? Is that the right question?
Yes.
Or your question is, who decides these version numbers?
Yes.
That is predefined by the organizer, the project manager or BS or the technical team. They will decide the version numbers. See, what happens is, technically, every week there will be releases, or every 2 weeks there will be releases. So let us say we have a software development life cycle for 2-month window. Okay, so we are starting testing today, and we are giving fixes every week. So every week, like let us say every Monday, they will have release. So for that particular Monday, they will have a number defined, saying that okay, next Monday we are releasing 2.0. So there is a window, right? Everybody has to be ready for pushing all the code into that window. If you miss the window, then again it will be 3.0 next Monday. It's like, see, when you go to a bus stop, just because you went to a bus stop doesn't mean that you are ready to go. You have to have the bus, right? The bus is only coming at given interval, right? So the bus basically will come probably every 30 minutes or 1 hour, right? Every bus will have a time. So every software release will have a window. So for instance, if I have 20 defects in my plate, I'm a developer, I have 20 defects in my plate, and I can fix only 10 of them by next Monday. So next Monday release is 2.0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix all this, and I'm going to assign it to 2.0, and I'm going to push this code. By next Monday, I can fix 5 more. So I'll fix all this and put it as 3.0, 4.0. So in this way, I'll look at the next coming release and I'll put the fixed versions accordingly. Make sense?
Version 25.
Oh, it could. There is no limit to it.
And then,
Hundreds.
and then when all this compiled, and when you release it to the customer, the client, they'll be decided what version.
That will be the That will be the. Yeah. There will be release management team who will be putting these numbers and stuff. So these numbers are predefined. Yeah.
What do you mean by beta version? Usually see in a new software that's developed, you say there's a beta version.
Correct. I think I'll discuss that about what is beta and what is beta version when we talk about the testing methods. Yeah. I'm going to talk about it. Okay.
It's the same thing, alpha, beta,
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. We'll talk about the beta version, alpha version. All that is part of our testing methods discussion, which is probably today or tomorrow. We'll talk about. Okay. Yeah. What for what?
Let's say you work for a major office like this,
Right?
And there's a defect in this showstopper.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So do they have to like let's say extra because there's like you said, I remember you said with Amazon, if the site even goes down for like 6 seconds, there's a major defect, and they lose a lot of money.
Right.
You know, it's the supply and demand. They don't want to lose money. So, as the employees are supposed to be working and implementing on that, they have to, like, say, let's say you work 9 to 5, and there's a showstopper defect that all of a sudden implements. So you have to stay till like 8 p.m.
Yeah, if you have to stay overnight, you have to stay overnight.
Who takes the call at 3 a.m.?
You like it or not?
Why did you not like it? Okay, that's my question. Why do you like it?
All right. Moving on to the description. Description basically is the steps to replicate this. So here, the description, you're going to document the steps that the QA or BA, whoever has tested it, and you know, how did they end up finding the defect. So that details of the steps will be documented in the steps to replicate section. Okay. So and why do we have to document these steps? Because what happens is, let us say, you know, I'm going to put a simple statement that, okay, I'm trying to transfer funds, it's not good. But how? See, making a funds transfer, there could be multiple ways of doing it. Let us say there are 2 or 3 flows in which the funds transfer could be done in an application. And let us say one of the flow is broken. You have to exactly tell them which flow is broken, right? And remember, if you do not give them the right information, the development team cannot fix the issue. See, as a developer, if I have to fix the issue, you know, I have to find the issue, right? I have to replicate the issue, right? So, see, it's the same thing as you go to a doctor. So, when you go to a doctor and you basically give him all your issues, the first thing that he tries to do is diagnose, right? He's going to diagnose and identify the root cause. Without identifying the root cause, you know, he's not going to start the treatment, unlike India or other countries, right? So the main aspect here is that all the defects, all the steps that the QA is following has to be identified in detail, and they have to be documented in detail so that, you know, it makes it easy. The developer can take step by step. I mean, the details include what browser they use, assuming that it's a web application, what version of the browser, which browser type, what ID password they have used to log in, to you know, and then what are the steps from step 1. Each and every step, yes, kind of an effort, very detailed, and what is the behavior that they found, what is the expected result, and what is the actual they found. So all this information will be documented in detail. So please mute your line. So all this information will be documented in detail in the description. Okay, so here I think I probably explain what is the difference between summary and description, right? Summary is just like a high level one-liner, you know, which describes, you know, by reading it I know what the issue is, but how to replicate, you know, how did you identify, all that minute level of details should be documented in the description. Any questions? I think someone was asking the difference between summary and description. I don't know who it was. All right. The next most important component is the defect resolution. What is a defect resolution? A defect resolution refers to the steps taken by the developer or whoever in the process of resolving it. I repeat, defect resolution refers to the steps taken by the developer or whoever is basically saying that it's resolved. What action did they do? What and then how did they resolve this? On what basis are we saying that this is resolved? Okay. So number one, assuming that it's a valid defect, right? So you are a developer, you have fixed it, and you are resolving it. Now how am I resolving it? By changing the code, by putting the code fix it. So here the resolution is code fix. Defect resolution is the resolution performed by the developer or the whoever it is. It could be anybody. They are resolving the issue. They are saying that the issue is resolved, but they also have to document based on what. Based on what are you saying that this issue is resolved? So here, assuming that they have fixed the code, the developer is going to select the option code fix, saying that okay, we have resolved this issue, but in the process of resolution, we have updated the code. We have put the code fix.
When you execute, to keep the defect resolution column open.
Perfect. Let us say, see, just because a testing team has reported a defect doesn't mean that it's a defect. So, for instance, the testing team did not read the requirement, right? And they have reported defect. So technically, it's working as expected. So, what am I going to do? Am I going to fix the code? No. I'm just going to simply say that it's not a defect. Right? I'm going to say it's not a defect, and I'm going to assign it back to them, saying that okay, this is as per the requirement, read the requirement, I'm going to resolve it. But the resolution is not a defect. Okay? Next. Data issue. See, sometimes what happens is the data is basically coming from some other backend, right, from database normally. So let us say if I'm testing, the expectation is that the moment I log in, it should say welcome, first name followed by last name on the screen. Welcome Subhash Rayana. But what it is doing is it's only displaying my first name. Welcome Subhash. It's not displaying the last name. Okay? And it's a defect. It's a defect from a development, from a testing perspective. It's a defect, right? So they go ahead and they report the defect, right? Now the developer is he's not doing any magic. He's basically taking the data from the backend somewhere and he's pasting it on the screen, right? But if the system in the backend doesn't have a last name, can he do anything? No, I'm not going to fix it, right? So let us say if the developer has realized that for that particular ID that has been tested, it doesn't have a last name in the database. If it doesn't have any data in the backend, how am I going to show it on the screen? I cannot show it, right? So here the issue is a backend issue, right? It's a data issue. And is there a resolution for this? No. What I'm going to say is this ID that you have tested doesn't have a last name in the database. Go check for IDs which have last name and test it, it will work. I'm going to just put those comments and I'm going to resolve it as data issue.
Time frame that we if the developer feels that this somehow cannot be fixed in that due date.
If they cannot fix it in the due date, then they'll talk to the project managers and that.
So what do they mention at this point that
no. Due date has nothing to do with the resolution. What kind of okay, if it is a data issue, I would say it's not an issue at all, right? It's not an issue at all. It's not a defect because they did not, when they were testing, they should have ensured that that particular ID that they were testing should have had all the data, right? So this is technically not a defect. It's a data issue. But in the real time, every user when you are capturing, they will have the first name, all the mandatory information we take. Okay, then environment issue. Or network issue, whatever you want to call it. See, I started testing the application as a QA, and while I was testing, let us say some network went down or some server went down, and because of it I found issues. Right? Does it mean that there is an issue with the software? No. The servers were down, the environment was unstable, and as a QA I did not know it. I'm not a developer, right? So I'm testing it, it's not working, I just reported it. So what am I going to do? The developer will go check when it was tested, what has happened, and then it's working fine now. Then we'll basically resolve it saying, okay, when you tested, there was some network issue. Now go ahead and test it again. It was not a defect at all. See, the defect has been reported, and we are basically replying back to them saying that, okay, what is actually defect, what is not a defect, and why is that we are not saying that it's not a defect. So this way you can basically have different type of resolutions for each defect. Okay. Any questions on the defect resolution?
Subhash, I have a question.
Yeah.
Could you briefly go over the data issue again? I didn't get that part.
See, what happens is, when the testing team is testing, they're using test data, right? They're using dummy IDs, the dummy data for testing, right? So when they start testing using this dummy data, what happens is, they have to ensure that whatever they are testing, the ID or credentials that they're trying to test should have all the data, right? And if they're not, for example, let us say, you log into a bank account with your testing ID, and you're testing transactions, right? You're testing all the transactions for that particular account, and you did not find any transactions, so you reported a defect, saying that, okay, I'm not finding any transactions. But before you test it, you need to make sure that that particular ID has transactions in the backend, right? So without doing that, you just go ahead and report it as a defect. That's not a defect. So here, the issue is that it doesn't have data in the back.
Oh, I understood. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, Sarah, go ahead.
So I'm confused with fixed version and defect resolution. Are those the same, or is there a difference? What are the differences between those two?
I'm sorry, what is your confusion again?
Can you please tell us the difference between fixed version and defect resolution? Because for me it sounded kind of similar.
Oh, okay, so you're talking about difference between fixed version and defect resolution.
Yes.
When you are resolving a defect, you will have a resolution, and fixed version basically is the version of the software that you are resolving the defect. So for instance, let us say, yeah, I think what you said is right. The fixed version and the defect resolution are correlated.
Okay. So fixed version only contains the version of the defects, but the defect resolution has resolutions or resolutions for the defect, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's okay. So I'm resolving it, and why am I resolving it? I'm putting it as a defect resolution.
Okay, thank you. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Back end, kind of get what you mean. So then that data issue. So there was something to
front end issue is anything on the screen, UI on the screen. All right, moving on to the attachments. So while you're testing, as part of the description, I said that we put step-by-step details, right? Normally, the testing team, in order to give the visual picture, the testing team will also take screenshots, and they put them in a Word document, and they attach it to the defect. That will be like an attachment to the defect.
My brain jammed up.
Fine, we'll take a break in a minute. So attachments basically refer to the. So what happens is you in the description you basically are documenting step by step, right? Saying okay, you logged in, what happened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take screenshots. Step 1, I enter the ID, screenshot. So I'm going to document the screenshots one below the other, and I'm going to attach that document to the defect. It is necessary, yes. Because see, the thing is, rather than reading all the description, I can quickly go through the screen quickly. It makes it easy, right? And also, it is a proof that you have tested. What is the proof that you have tested? You probably are just documenting something and making it up. I'm going to say, okay, where are the screenshots? I need a proof that you have tested. Just because you have written some, reported a defect doesn't mean anything to me. I need to see what you have done. Where the test? Because I am not able to find it. You are basically just reporting it for no reason. So in order to avoid all these issues, yeah. See, what happens is, I think I'll tell you a scenario. So when we were basically implementing this banking solution, one of the customers, right, when we released the software, one of the customers, he frequently got this message, some error null, some message. He took a screenshot and he sent it to us. And the whole testing team, they were not able to find the issue. And my manager came to me and he said, you know what, Subhash, I need this replicated. I don't care what you're going to do. I need you to find this defect. You play around, I don't care. I need you to find this defect before noon. And I was looking at the screenshot and I was thinking of all the 1,000 possible directions what he could have done to land up and find the defect. So I had to kind of play around. Finally, I found it though. The BA also performs this, right? So in this way, what happens is technically, nobody else was able to find it. So if somebody found it, you take a screenshot because you have to prove, what you have done and how you have done to get there.
Question would be, can you go back to the same person, speak to him in person?
You can go back to the same person. That is one thing. You can go back to the person, and he may say, no, the customer, right? No, but what happens is the customer may say, I don't know what I did.
Yeah.
That's how most of the customers are. They're not into the technical stuff, right? All they can say is, I don't know what I did, but I found it. I logged in, I found it. Yeah. But again, they may also help you, be able to help you.
There's some people who might say, this is what I did.
And the customer is not available for a call most of the time. High net worth client.
I think this is not the ability to
right.
How did you find?
Right. Okay. Now moving on to comments, if you want to add a comment to the defect or your observation to the defect, you can just add more comments. And participants basically is the list of people who you want to be notified that okay, this defect has been reported. For instance, if I found a defect in login, I want to notify the technical lead or project manager saying that okay, these are the defects open. So I'll also put them in the participants list, so they will also be notified automatically while I'm reporting these defects.
You would know who to keep in the list.
Once you start working, you will know who to keep in the list.
How much you can write was it served?
Yep. Okay. Any questions on this?
Yeah, I have one question. I didn't get to hear you properly. On the attachments, where are the screenshots supposed to be attached? I mean, which document?
You can take a Word document and put the screenshots in a sequence, one below the other.
Oh, so you're just supposed to create a new document, independent document, right?
Yeah, just take the Word document and open a Word or Excel sheet and put the sequence screenshots in sequence, one below the other.
Oh, okay, okay.
That's all.
Right, thank you.
Nothing complicated. You save it on your Word desktop and you attach it to the defect. Every defect will have an attachment section.
Okay, sure.
Then we that in comments and ask to release them.
you could see comments is like if you want to comment on something, if you want some developer, let us say if I'm assigning to someone, I want to put a note for him, I'll put it in the comments. Right. Any more questions on this one?
Why I asked that question was you have already the fixed version written. So that is assume that it's the ready version.
Mm-hmm.
So
Comments you can add, as I said, comment is just to put a note. You can say anything.
So with the like suggesting suggest the developing team to reopen
Comments. Comments, or you can basically go ahead and reopen it.
So if it's not reopen, then we don't have a
I'm not sure if I understand what you're saying. The defect is, let us say the defect is fixed. You have a fixed version. Okay. Now, testing team has failed it. It's reopened. It can be reopened. Why not?
it will be fixed only fixed version will come only after the testing. Before that.
I'm not sure if you understood the concept, but let me repeat again. I identified the defect. Affected version is version 2.0.
Yeah, like the fixed version number given by development team when they
correct. Before they drop the code, let us say the next release window is 4.0. So I have a defect with Apex, so I'll put it as I'll tag it as 4.0. Push it. Okay. Huh?
I have no thinking of that. Let's take it.
All right, I think let's take a quick break, folks. For the next, let's meet at 11:30 again. I think everybody is kind of, fuming from their end again. All right.
Subhash?
Quick break. Yeah.
Subhash, I have a quick. I have already posted my screenshots of the UI.
I'll take a look at it.
It would be great if we can look at it. If we have time. Okay. Thank you.
Subhash, one more thing before we go. I also submitted my assignment. I believe you opened it at the beginning, but I wasn't here, so I just wanted to.
We'll review it later.
Thank you.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello? Yeah, can you hear?
Can you guys hear me?
Andre, you have a question? Huh?
Oh no, I was just wondering if I could be heard because I asked Subhash something and I didn't get a response.
So when is the last day of this class? I think it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow is the last session, guys.
Okay. Thank you. So it's no class like next week? I mean next weekend?
No, I don't think so. No classes anymore. Tomorrow's the last class.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. All right. Is he gonna do a mock interview like Sunday, or is it gonna be like a day? You guys.
I think he's going to start preparing us for mock interviews.
Yeah, I'm saying like mock. Ridley. Hello.
Can you repeat that one more time? Sorry, what?
I'm saying that is he gonna do like mock interview separately, or is it gonna be over the phone? How's it?
No, I think it's going to be over the phone. No, I mean, it is going to be over the phone. He's going to send us a resume. I don't believe my words, but this is what I think it's going to be. This is from what I've heard. He's going to send us a resume to glance through it. Then he's going to start giving us questions and start preparing us for the mock interviews.
And it takes like a month, right, to get a position or something like that?
Yeah, it could take a month. It could also take like 6 weeks to 8 weeks. You know, depending on the crowd and depending on the positions available, depending on where you're looking. It you know, it depends on multiple factors. But he says it takes anywhere from 4 weeks to 8 weeks.
Ajay, that's after our last class, yes?
Yes, that's going to be after our last class.
I thought our last class was next weekend.
No, I think our last class is tomorrow because I believe there are only 8 sessions and today is the 7th session.
Yeah. Yeah, the last class is tomorrow, definitely.
We can double check when he comes back.
Okay.
He just said that there's not. They said like there are 10 sessions, I guess.
So I think he just said it like like half an hour ago that we have 9.
We have like 2 sessions left.
Well, then I believe the 2 sessions could be regarding the mock interviews and the preparing. That could be it too.
Oh, I don't know. They said like there are 10 sessions. So.
Okay, well we can double check with him when he comes back.
Yeah, I call ask.
All right, folks. Let's get started.
Hey, Subhash.
Yeah.
Are you getting my messages? on the chat.
Am I getting your messages? Yeah.
You are?
I was not seeing the messages.
Okay, that's okay. I was wondering, is there another way of getting a hold of you during the week?
Is there?
Or is email the best way? Regarding if I have any questions with assignments or anything.
Yeah, sure. You can reach out to me. I'll send you my contact information, or maybe you can give me your and I'll call you.
Okay. Also, regarding the feedback for the assignment, are you going to email that to me, or are you just going to leave a note under the assignment?
I'll leave a note on the blog.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Hey, Subhash, the same thing for the feedback on the assignments. Are you gonna? So, when should we expect that to be? Today, tomorrow, or sometime next week?
I'll try to do it by tomorrow.
By tomorrow, okay.
Yeah.
I particularly have some questions about the BRD, which I submitted for work with client. There were a couple of sections which were not making sense to me.
I think we can have a one-on-one because your document was the first when I started reviewing, but you were not there, so I stopped it.
Okay.
So we will have a one-on-one later. Okay. Thanks.
Should I call you or like once the meeting is over?
Not today. Probably tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we learned about testing. Now the next important concept that you need to learn with respect to testing is the testing methods. This works like a heater. White box testing, black box testing, testing method. So there is a difference between testing type and testing method. Testing type is either it is manual or automation. This is basically irrespective of the type of testing. This is basically the method of it. We will talk about. So we have white box testing, black box testing, unit testing, integration testing, sanity, smoke testing, sanity or smoke testing. Then we also have the regression testing, followed by UAT testing. UAT stands for user acceptance testing. Then alpha and beta testing. Followed by okay. So these are the different methods of testing. So as I said, So when you are basically testing an application or a software in the industry, we know that at a high level there are two types of. One is manual and automation. Right now, irrespective of what type of testing you're planning to test, you have to understand that you need to understand the requirement. Based on the requirement, you can validate, whether you want to do it manually or through automation. Okay. So while you are performing this testing via automation or manual process, there are certain methods that you may follow in the process of testing, irrespective of whether it is manual or automation. The testing methods that I've listed are very popular and most used in the industry. But in addition to these methods, there are several other testing methods, but I wouldn't worry about the rest of it. Okay, so let's focus on these 9 methods. I think if you understand this is more than enough. Okay. So to start with, white box testing. What is a white box testing? Who performs white box testing? And what are the different things that happen during the white box testing? The testing performed by the technology team or the testing performed by any individual who understands technology thoroughly is called as white box testing. I repeat, the testing performed by any individual who has some technology background, who understands programming and who understands technology background is called as white box testing. Now the reason why it is called as a white box testing is because from a tester perspective, the system is a white box. He can interact with the application, he can test the application, but however in the process of testing, he can see through the inner implementation because being a technical person, this resource has the capability to see through the inner implementation of the system. So anybody who basically has a technical background, technology background, if they are testing it, you can call it as white box. For example, if the developer is testing, then you can say, okay, he is doing white box. Okay. Simple example, a very simple example of saying this is, let us say if you have to buy a used car. So what you do is you take the car to a mechanic, right? The testing performed by the mechanic on the car is called as white box testing, right? Because see, the mechanic not only understands whether it is working or not properly, but he has the capability of seeing through the inner implementation of how the car is working. He understands how the radiator works, how the transmission works, how the fluids are working, how the brake liners are working. So he has the capability of seeing through the inner implementation, through the engine of the car, and he can understand the whole process. So from a testing perspective, the testing he is doing is called as white box testing. Any questions? Oh, black boxes, quite opposite of white box. As a business analyst or a QA, a software tester, or a business user, anybody who is basically testing the application, who has nothing to do with technology, who doesn't have any technology background, is called as black box test. I repeat, the testing performed by a non-technical person. It could be a business analyst, it could be a QA, it could be a business user, it could be anybody. It's called as black box testing. Now, why is it called as black? The reason it's called as black box testing is, as an analyst or as an end user, when you are testing it, you don't care how the system is implemented, right? You don't care how it is working internally. For you, the system is black box. All you know is that for a given input, you expect an output. right? For a given input, all you know is that okay, it has to respond back in this way, and this is what I'm inputting and this is what I'm expecting. That's all you know. You know how it works, and you basically interact with it and make sure it is working as right. So this kind of testing. See, the reason why I'm saying this is because for you the system is black box. You don't know what's going on internally, how it is working internally, right? So for example, if I have to test a project, I don't care how it works internally, right? All I have to do is just plug it in and make sure it is working or not. That's all. Another simple example, going back to the same, the car mechanic, right? The testing that you would perform in the process of buying a used car, you go to the mechanic and you basically test drive before you buy it, right? Right. So what do you mean by test driving? You are actually doing a black box. So during this test drive, all you know is that when you turn on the ignition, the engine should start. Now, how is it starting? I don't know, and I don't care, right? So when I put the accelerator, it should run. When I turn on the lights should turn on, right? When I slam the brakes, it should stop. So I know what to input and I know what to expect, right? But I don't care how it works internally, right? To me, it's a black box, right? So any individual, who is basically test driving without any mechanical background, it's called as black box.
Right, because he should know, a mechanic should know, will know.
Hopefully.
Okay, hopefully. So that's considered white box. That's
If the mechanic is doing it, it is white box. From his perspective, it is white box. From your perspective, if you test it, it is always black box.
There is something wrong, he will like probably open the put in the seat.
Any questions, folks? So next one is the unit testing. Unit testing basically is the testing performed by the developers as soon as they develop the individual unit of the system. I repeat, unit testing, see, when they implement the solution, they cannot build the system overnight, right? So basically they build the individual unit to start, right? If you want to construct a house, you start from the basement, right? You start with the pillars, you start from each and every unit of the house, right? So similarly, from a programming perspective, from a technology perspective, they basically identify each and every individual unit of functionality and they start implementing the solution. So as soon as they develop that individual unit, module, okay? So that testing is called as unit testing, okay? Now, the question is we said that in white box testing, we said the programmers will test. Now, unit testing also we are saying that the programmers will test. With this context, whatever I have explained, is it safe to say that unit testing is a subset of white box testing? It's a type of white box testing, right? Because in unit testing is still a white box, but however, all we are doing is rather than testing the whole system, we are taking individual units and we are testing. Now, the reason why we are calling it as white box and not black box is because if you take an example of car manufacturing, right? When they manufacture and assemble a car, the first thing what they do is they manufacture each and every individual unit. They manufacture the tires, the accelerators, the brakes, and they test it, right? Now, who tests it? Does the end user test it or the manufacturer? The manufacturer tests it, right? So here, whoever is developing it is the only person who is testing that unit, right? So testing can never be done by the end user. You cannot ask the end user to test a tire by just giving, no, that's not going to happen, right? So the manufacturer basically is responsible for testing it. So the individual unit testing is always categorized under the white box test. It's a, yeah, so unit testing is a subset of white box. It's a type of white box test.
Order of priority, like there is unit testing before it is given for the usually, as he said, the project is divided into 3 units. So obviously, if the first unit is being tested by a tester, the first type of testing done is so
the reason why I have projected white box and black box is because if you understand those two concepts, the rest of the methods will fall under white box. It will either fall under white box or black box depending on the situation. But I think pretty much I tried my best to put them logically to sequence. Anybody on the phone, any questions? All right. Integration testing. No. Integration testing basically is the testing performed to validate and make sure that each and every individual unit is working as expected upon integration. See, so far, as part of the integration, the objective of integration testing is to make sure that each and every individual unit of the system is working as expected post integration. Okay. Now we have finished unit testing, right? We have tested each and every individual unit. Now what we want to do is we want to integrate all these units to make them work as a system, right? So for example, developer 1 has developed login functionality, developer 2 has developed accounts functionality, developer 3 has developed funds transfer. All these have to be integrated. All these modules, units have to be integrated, right? See, just because the login is working doesn't mean that after the integration it will work. We have to test it, right? So the purpose of integration testing is to integrate all these different modules and test and make sure that they are working as expected.
Developer, they test it, then
so what happens is once the release engineer, whoever is integrating it, so there is a resource called release engineer who is responsible for integrating all these units and installing on the servers. How does he do it? What does he do? That's not my worry. Yeah.
The diagram that he's talking. Is that the software
release manager?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was wondering. There are two to integrate.
Yes, there will be a tool to integrate all this code. So we have some software code management tools to integrate. I don't know how they work, so I wouldn't worry about it. Yeah. The testing team basically will be, will have priorities depending on who they are working with, what project they are working with. Yeah, somebody has a question?
Subhash, I have a question.
Yes.
I wanted to go back to unit testing real quick. So unit testing falls under white box testing, and it basically tests a unit, so basically a part of the application or the product or whatever you're testing?
Right.
Okay. So it's a specific unit that's being tested, and it's typically tested by a tech person. Okay.
Correct.
Got it.
It can only be tested by a tech person because if you take an example, simple example of car manufacturing, right? What happens is as soon as the individual unit of the car is manufactured, it is the manufacturer who is going to test. It's not the end user. It's never going to be the end user, right?
Right.
So that's the reason it always falls under the white box testing.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. And integration testing, as I said, once the whole individual modules are integrated and combined, the objective of integration testing is to make sure that the system is working as expected. Now here, integration testing is also called as system testing. Both are same. Integration testing. Excuse me. Integration testing or system testing. Both refer to the same. Both are same.
Again, right?
All right. Moving on to the next topic, sanity or smoke testing. Sanity or smoke testing. Okay. See, the objective of the sanity testing basically is to make sure that the critical features of the system are identified and are tested, and make sure that these critical features are working as expected. I repeat, the objective of sanity testing is to make sure that we identify the critical features of the system and test them and make sure that they are working as expected. So for instance, you have an application, a big application in place, right? Do you think it's possible to test the application end to end every now and then? Let's take a simple example. You have a car, right? Do you think you can ever get your car tested bumper to bumper? I mean, every 1 month or every 4 weeks? I don't think anybody would ever have their car tested bumper to bumper, right? What happens is when you go to a mechanic, what they do is they offer 10-point inspection, 20-point inspection, 50-point inspection, 101-point inspection, right? So what does it mean? What it means is they have identified the critical features and they have prepared a sanity checklist. If you pay $50, probably they do 50-point inspection. So depending on what kind of validation you want to get it done, so they're going to identify all those critical features and they're going to test and make sure. Now why are we doing this? Because we want to make sure that the critical features are working, and if the critical components of the system are working as expected, then the system will not break down. See, when you have identified the critical components of the car, your brake engine oil, or your lights, your tires, you have identified all of them and all the critical features are working. That means that the car will never break down.
How would you go about choosing critical?
That's a good question. So that's a good question. So question is, how would you go about, first of all, how would you go about identifying these critical modules? Number two, who is going to do it? Who is going to prepare this? So there is something called as sanity checklist. Just like a mechanic prepares their, the inspection checklist, right? Checkpoint list. Similarly, even here, even when you go to a DMV, they actually have an inspection checkpoint. They check all, only if it passes all them, then they'll say, okay, we are giving you the approval, right? So here also the same concept applies. As part of the testing team will identify the critical features, or as a BA, you may also be responsible for, identifying all the critical features. It's as simple as, so for instance, in the previous project, my manager asked me to come up with a sanity checklist. So I went ahead and identified login was the critical aspect. In login, our application was used by users from different countries, and each country has a different login process. So I had to have the login process for, there were 3 countries. So I had to make sure that, 3 countries were identified as part of the login. That was one aspect. Then accounts, what are the features? What are the critical features? Okay, page load, then transactions. So identify high level. At a high level, I prepared these checklists, and for each region also we segregated because the business rules were varying for each country to country. So I put them in a sheet, and whatever made sense to me, I just identified those critical features, and I published the sheet. And each time when we, published the application, the new release, gave a new release, I was responsible for validating the high-level sanity items, make sure everything is working, and then promote it to the testing.
In requirement testing or PR?
The purpose of documenting the sanity testing sheet is for testing purpose. Now, how are you going to prepare this? Based on your requirements. Right? Your requirements will tell you what are the items, and from that you pick up all the critical items and you basically document it. You prepare a separate sanity checklist. Yeah.
Kind of sounds like
what makes the difference is that in integration testing you are testing everything. You are integrating all the individual units and you are testing, right? Sanity testing is you are identifying the critical features. Like for example, the system may have 100 features, but I'm not testing everything. What I'm doing is I'm preparing a sanity checklist and I'm saying that okay, these are the 20 critical features and I'm going to test them. Right. Right.
But if you check it, the diagnosis in the hand, it will show you like 4 or 5 items. Oh, so you got to go on and do them like check.
Right. Anybody else? Any questions, folks? So far? See, the reason why they call it as smoke testing separately because when they integrate the application, the first time when you test it, it's basically as good as you are passing a smoke through a pipe when you construct it for the first time and you check if there are any leaks, right? So that's the reason it's called as a smoke testing also. Okay. Any questions on the first 5 testing methods that we spoke? Okay. The next one is the regression testing. Yeah. The objective, to pay attention, regression testing is very, very important concept, and this may be one of the interview questions also. Okay. Yeah. All right. The objective of regression testing is to, yeah, Hina. Sorry,
let's go over integration testing again briefly.
The objective, yeah. So the objective of integration testing is to integrate each and every individual unit of the application and make sure that all these individual units are interacting with each other effectively and the system is working as expected post integration of each of these individual units. So the goal is to, so we have basically developed each and every individual unit so far. Now what we want to do is we want to basically integrate all these units to make it as a system, right? So the goal is to integrate these units and see, just because one unit is working individually as a standalone doesn't necessarily mean that it works as expected when it is integrated, right? So you want to make sure that the integration is working as expected and the individual units are interacting with each other as expected and then working as expected. That's the reason it's called as integration or system testing.
So it's basically like each one is functioning evenly for the software to give us the final result, like for what it was.
Correct.
What it was made for. Okay, got it.
That's right. See, I mean, when you manufacture the individual units of a car, they are tested and they're working. But once it is integrated, you need to make sure that the tire is in sync with the brake, right? The brake liners. Mm-hmm. So if there is no sync, if there is no proper integration, then it's no good. So you need to test that.
Just like in the car, the gear works together, like that's how you're talking about the integration, right?
Right.
Okay.
Regression and integration is almost close to each other.
No. I'm going to talk about regression in a second. Anybody else? Any questions, folks? All right. So moving on to the next very important concept, regression testing. The objective of regression testing is to make sure that the code changes or changes in the software. The code changes made in the software. And why are we making code changes? For two reasons. It could be for adding new features. See, when we have an application, the software is already up and running. Okay? We have a software in place, but we are making code changes to this software for two reasons. It could be for adding new features, or it could be to fix the defect. Right? So the purpose of regression testing is to make sure that the code changes or enhancements done to the system in order to enhance the application or in order to fix the defect are not breaking the existing feature which is already working as expected. Yeah, so basically the goal of regression testing is to make sure that the code changes or enhancements done on the system are not breaking the existing features of the system. See, you have a system which is already up and running, but you are making changes to it. Making changes is fine. You want to add new features. But you need to make sure that whatever is working is still working, right? You don't want to break it down. So for instance, you went ahead and you installed a remote starter to your car, right? So remote starter is working fine, but when you actually put the key in the engine, it doesn't start. Does it make sense? Oh. So in the process of fixing something, adding something new, you basically have messed up what was working. The actual key, when you turn on the ignition, it was starting. Now, when you added the new feature, the remote starter, the remote starter is working fine, but the actual engine itself is not starting when you put the key on, right? So the goal is to make sure that the engine is working when you even turn on the key with your ignition in the engine, right? So the objective, as I said, the regression testing is very important because it helps you ensure that whatever is working continues to work. And as part of your regression testing, you will identify all the features that could be impacted due to the change that was made. So here in this example of the car that we just spoke about, so you have set up the remote start, right? So first thing is you check the remote start is working fine. Next thing is what else could be impacted? Obviously the key, you have to use the key. So the relevant functionality is the key itself, right? So the scenario that you have to test as part of your regression testing is use the key, turn it on, is it working or not? So that is the regression testing that we are performing. We are making sure that whatever is working is still working. Right. regression testing is basically to see, yeah, we have already an application in place. We have a system in place.
Yeah.
As a business analyst, you may also be performing regression testing. I'll give you a simple example. You're testing. You will be testing manually. So regression testing, you can do it anyway. You can do it automation or manual. But I'll give you a simple example of what I mean by regression testing. So when I was actually working in one of the financial applications, the testing team reported a defect. Okay, so the defect was when you log in successfully, you go to your settings page, there is a change password option. Okay, you're trying to enter the current password, new password, you click confirm, it doesn't change, it's giving error message. So that is the defect. Okay, so this is pretty much alert around the login functionality, changing password, all this is related to login. Okay, now when this defect was reported to the development team, so they went ahead and they fixed it. They changed the code and they fixed it. Okay, now the testing teams comes back and they start testing. The first thing they have to do is they have to test the actual defect. Right? The defect is basically on they log in, they go to the change password page, try to change the password, it's working. So the defect is fixed. Okay. Now the defect is associated with the login feature, right? Password, all this is associated with login. So what they did was they tested all the scenarios around the password page or login functionality. So one of the feature was when a customer is logging in for the very first time, he enters his ID, password. For the very first time, he should be landing on the change password, which was working as expected prior to the fix. But after they fixed it, this was basically directly taking him to the home page. So in the process of fixing the change password issue, what they did was the first time user, when I log in for the very first time, ID, password, I'm always being forced to the change password page. But the code that they fixed on the change password broke the other code, other feature which was working as expected. So just because we did the regression, we wanted to make sure all the features which were around the change password were tested. So one of this feature was the first time login. So we identified that they broke it. So if we had not done the regression, we would have never known that. You got it? So we knew that, okay, this is around this functionality is also touching, the first time user is also touching the change password. So we identified all the scenarios and we tested. That was basically the regression. That's called as the regression testing. Okay. Anybody else, any questions? Yes, you make a list of all the regression scenarios that you have to test that could be impacted.
I mean, the developer put the code in, T test first, then the BA test, right, and then the
yeah. No, there's even more than 3 times. Every testing will have a proper plan. Will have a sequence. Once the developer tests it, then the BA will test, then the testing team will test, then the end users will. To start with, it's always white box, especially the unit testing, then the integration, then the sanity, then eventually once the application is up and running, then you will have the regression.
You only test the regression testing if some other features there.
Or you have fixed some defects, amended something, or you made some changes. Mm-hmm.
So if you are developer, you have to
Come again?
if you're a developer and there's a defect in the testing, so that when you're trying to fix that in your phone.
If you are a developer and there was a defect identified and reported to you, you are fixing the defect. But when you fix the defect, all the other areas that could be impacted due to that defect will also be tested. So that testing is called as regression testing. Yeah, folks on the phone, any questions on the regression?
So the regression means enhancing the system without
No, wait. Regression doesn't mean enhancing the system. Regression testing means that you are identifying all the scenarios that could be impacted due to the changes made in the system, and you are testing it. That is regression testing. Regression testing doesn't mean making changes. Regression testing means that you are identifying all the scenarios, all the features that could be impacted because of the changes made, and you are testing them. You are rigorously testing them. That's why it's called as regression testing.
Sure, got it.
System testing is done at a high level. The regression testing is kind of at low level. Like you get into the details of it. The regression testing is only in regression testing you are identifying all the features that could be impacted around that change. Right? System is you're testing the whole system. But regression testing, you are identifying what are the scenarios that could be impacted of a change that you have made around it, and you just test it. That's all. You don't test the whole system.
Then you test whether it is consuming more fuel or is it not affecting the heating capability?
All right, moving on to the next important concept, UAT testing. You will hear this word several times in the industry, UAT. UAT stands for User Acceptance Testing. Now, so once the development has tested, the testing team has tested, everybody has tested and approved the application. The final testing performed on the application before the application or product is delivered to the testing team is called as user acceptance testing. User acceptance testing is the final round of testing performed on the application by the business users or stakeholders. Who is the owner, right? So they test it, make sure everything is working, and once they approve, then it is released to the client, to the end customers.
Can you please repeat that again, Subhash?
Yes, yeah. So user acceptance testing is the final testing performed by the business users. So before they release it to the customers, right, what happens is the business users or stakeholders or product manager, whoever is the owner, they are responsible for validating it, testing it, making sure it is working as expected. And once they accept it, once they approve it, then it is published to the end customers. See, for example, if I'm actually spending or investing money on developing a website application, right? So I have a development team, I have a testing team, The development team have done their job. The testing team said, okay, we have tested everything is fine. Then it comes to me for final test. Just make sure it has everything what I need. Test it, and once I approve it, then once I feel comfortable, then I'm going to release it to my customers. So this is the final testing performed on the system or the application before it is released to the end users. Okay. See, and again, what happens is normally the business users may not have time to sit and test it themselves the whole day, right? What they do is they also may hire a dedicated testing team for themselves, and they may also have it validated on it. That is also a possibility. Yeah, so that means they have a separate UAT testing team who is actually sitting, dedicatedly sitting and testing it on behalf of the testers. So you will have developer testing, you will have a BA testing it, you will have the integration team, the actual testing team testing it, then the UAT testing team testing it. SME also does. SME is basically the end user. Yeah. Okay. All right. So once the application goes through this whole process, then the next testing that you could think of is alpha and beta testing. What is alpha and what is beta? See, normally what happens is when the application is developed, once the UAT is complete, depending on the type of the product, depending on the nature of the application that has to be published to the customers, sometimes what happens is the business wants to have an alpha test done on the product. Okay. So what alpha testing means is the business will identify. Let us say they have 100,000 customers. Okay. So what they'll do is they will identify alpha users. Maybe randomly select maybe 500 or 1,000 customers out of the 100,000, and they'll publish the software to them, the application to them, and they'll say, oh, as part of our new application launch, this is the new site that we are trying to build. Please go ahead and start using it, and if you have any issues, please let us know. So these users are called as alpha users. Now, how is the business going to select them? What is the process? That is purely up to them. We are not worried about. So they have some operations team, their callers who call them, who publish it, and they, they talk to the end users, to the customers, and on a weekly basis or on a 2 weeks or probably every month for the next few months, they try to get the feedback. So all these 100 or 1,000 customers, alpha users, they give their own feedback. One of them may say, what, I found this issue. Another customer may report another issue. So all these issues are actually again compiled, and they are again fixed. Right? They're fixed. Now, see, the application has been used by 1,000 users. The issues reported by these 1,000 are taken care. Now the application is a little bit more stable. Right? Now what happens is the organization may release it to another, let us say 10,000 audience. They may say beta users. These users are called as beta users. They can identify maybe 5,000 more or 10,000 whatever, and they'll release it to these audience, and they'll ask them to again start using it. Right? So again, after few weeks of follow-ups, they'll identify all the observations reported by the 5,000 customers. All these issues are again fixed, right? And now the application is very stable because it has been tested by around 5,000 or 10,000 customers.
And the user actually sending it back to the software company, just sending them the.
See, how are they going to report the defect? See, how are they going to report the defect? That depends on the process. So, for instance, let us say, even today, when you use Microsoft products, let us say if the application crashes, it will give you an option, do you want to send the report? Yeah. So it's an automated process. What happens is that error, whatever caused it, it will be published to the Microsoft server directly, and all the logs will be checked by the programmers. So that's an automated way of reporting it. But again, every business has their own way of tracking. They may have some operations team who's going to call the customers, and whatever it means. So data now that we have identified the issues reported by an extended set of audience, and we have compiled the report, we have fixed all the issues. Now the application is more stable post the beta testing.
Let's say Bank of America got a software from us. We gave to them. They found all this, under beta testing. They got some, faults. Will the fix it in-house themselves? Bank of America send it back to us.
Whoever is developed, if you have developed, you'll do it. Whoever has developed it will fix it. And once the application is stable, then beta testing is successful, all the issues are taken care, then it will be published to the world. Yeah.
After the testing method, if any defect or deviation is found, then
they will find. The objective is to find out any defects, right? See, a testing team of 50 people testing and finding defects is different versus 10,000 people using it and finding issues. There will be a lot more.
Even not only programmers, but also testing method. So we start a defect life cycle after testing each testing.
Yeah, defect life cycle will not change.
So that will actually happen after each testing.
If that's a worm and not caught by technology, how would you feel about that?
Come again?
With the coders, right? But so there's a worm. I mean, someone hacked this. And how would you feel about it?
That's the purpose of having a testing team. Then IST testing, integration testing, then UAT testing. We have so many different methods of testing. The objective is to identify all the defects. But again, in spite of subjecting the application to all this, there is still a possibility that once it is delivered to the end user, there will still be defects. But again, it will be fixed in the next corresponding release. Like Apple, they release the new iOS every month, every 2 months, right? That means that they are working, identifying all the issues, they fixed it and they release. Again, they find all the issues, they compile the thing. So it's an ongoing process. Yeah. No software is defect free. All right. Any questions, anybody? Go with the alpha beta. All right. The last one, stress or load testing. Stress or load testing basically is the testing performed on the application to see or to measure the volume of stress or load that an application can handle in the real time. Stress or load testing is the testing performed on any application to analyze the stress, the volume of stress or load that an application can withstand in the real time. See, performance is very critical for any application. So initially, I remember everybody was using Yahoo Mail, Yahoo applications, Yahoo products. But over a period of time, Google basically has become more better because of not only their application features but also the performance. Right? So when the page loads, I don't want the application to take more than 1 second to load. when I enter my ID password and I hit login, it should basically populate the result in less than 1 or 2 seconds. I'm not waiting forever to see what to get what I want, right? So what happens is when an application is being developed, there are certain set of service level agreements which are called as SLAs that are in place as part of the agreement between the business and technology. Okay, and every page load will have an expectation. The business is going to make it very clear that okay, this page shouldn't take more than 2 seconds. So they analyze each and every feature, every aspect with the technology team, and they come to an agreement before they start. See, I mean, if this page is taking 10 seconds to load, I'm not going to use it. It might be the internet. With the ideal internet conditions, there are conditions. Yes, there are conditions factors. With the ideal, assuming that the internet condition is good, with all the conditions in place, network is good, everything is good. There is certain set of expectation from the application performance. Yeah.
Subhash, I had a question. Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
So does this mean that the example that you just said between the business and technology, that there should be a certain number of seconds, that also has to be documented as a BA initially when you are using all this, and because you have that information, you can be a good QA for that purpose too?
Correct. And also, that information is documented as part of the technical design and non-functional requirements. Yeah, what you said is right. Yeah, go ahead.
For this kind of testing, so we in the requirement gathering, statement in requirement gathering, we give approximate number of users on that particular.
Right. So the number of users are also predefined. To give a simple example, right? Say healthcare. Let us say your the lottery that we had, right? The Powerball. So the website probably is normal volume of the traffic that is hitting the page probably is like 100,000 a minute, let us say, in normal time. Okay, but during the peak times, for instance, when we had this go to 1 billion, I guess, right? So what happens is the volume probably will increase by 50 times, right? Rather than 100,000, probably millions of people are actually accessing the site. So how do we handle it? I mean, is the application going to handle it? How do we know? On average, we know that our application can handle 100,000 customers at a time. But what if 200,000 people access it? What if at the same time? What if 500,000 do? What if 1 million customers access it? You cannot test it in the real time, right? When you're testing it, you cannot ask 1 million people to access at the same time, and you cannot test. So here we have certain set of stress and load testing. Now, stress and load testing is always automation. Okay, always automation, and there are certain set of stress and load testing tools that are used. Like for instance, one of the popular tools is the load runner. Yeah, as a BA, you don't have to worry about it, but it's basically an automation testing tool used for testing. So what happens is this load runner, it will create virtual requests. It will create 1 million virtual requests automatically, and it will hit the servers as if it is simulating the real time. And it will see, okay, so initially when 100,000 customers were accessing the application, it was loading in probably half second. Now we increase it to 200,000. How much time is it taking? 300,000. How much time is it taking? 400, 500,000, 1 million. At what point is the application kind of going down? At what point is it crashing? So all these are results that they have to keep looking, because see, Google even initially 10 years back they had around 100,000 people accessing. Now probably they'll have at least 1 or 2 million testing every second, right? So next year, if they're doing good, it will probably be double, right? So they need to keep increasing. They need to study the user pattern. They need to study the infrastructure they have, and they need to keep upgrading and themselves with all the aspects, because as I said, 1 minute of downtime they may cost them millions of dollars.
So I guess you answered my question. My question was, is it manually done or automation?
Automation.
Automation. Correct. Is it the load testing? Is it programming issue or server issue? Server cannot handle all million at the same time?
It's with the architecture, because what happens is with the architecture design, if the design is not done properly, then system may slow down. But anyways, irrespective of what the issue is, the testing to validate the stress or load levels is done using load runner.
So the healthcare.gov, when they launched it, they tested this load testing, right? They already assumed that there will be, let's say, 1 million people at the same time, but it still failed. Right. What was the reason there?
What I heard about healthcare.gov is that there were multiple companies working on the implementation,
right,
and the integration was not done properly. There was no handshake done properly. I heard IBM was also one of them, and there were Accenture. There were so many companies who were involved, and there was a lot of politics involved as well. They didn't want to work with each other. They want to get away with the whole contract, and again there was some lobbying also in place. So I think what I heard was the integration concepts. I mean, I'm actually developing one aspect of the feature. Some other company is actually coming up with other modules. So there is no proper handshake between both of us. So that was one of the major causes is what I heard, but there could be several.
Because we're kind of the problem for 2 years. There was so many people access around at the same time that their website crashed.
See, if the traffic is more than what they anticipate,
that means they did not in a way they did not pay or buy enough
the resources.
Enough resources.
See, they probably may have expected 1 billion hits.
And they got probably 2 billion for the
There's a limit to what they can do, right?
I read something like that. Uber crashed when there was so many people ordering.
Yeah, and then basically they probably have lost also millions of dollars.
So yeah, they did.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah.
And you can't do that because supply demand.
All right. Any more questions, folks?
One more time.
Batch.
Oh, there are so many other types of testing. Batch testing, job testing, those are more technical ones. We'll talk about them when we look at the testing methods, the actual test plan. But I think these are the main concepts from a methods perspective that we need to know. Any questions on whatever I spoke?
Let's say in a work situation, you did all those automate and design and it went to production, and you are at the stage. So as a BA, you are actually not working on multiple assignment, or you are just assigned to just one project.
You may be working on testing for one project, requirements gathering for one project, and a scope analysis for another project. You may be doing a number of things. You may be doing some production support activities for another project.
Right. How can one person do that?
Why not? That's the reason multitasking is very important. It's one of the very important skills that a BA needs to have.
Like I closely requirement gathering methodology.
The thing is, lately I think the concept of the role of BA has actually expanded way beyond requirements gathering. Now you just cannot say, oh, you know what, I can do requirements, I'm not going to work on these other. That's not going to work.
Balance
everywhere. Everywhere. Right? size of the project. If you are working on a very big project and say you have 200 defects, then probably you are working on that only.
It depends on how much you can handle, what's the volume of work. I'm not saying that you will end up working 16, 20 hours a day, but it purely depends on where you are and what stage you are.
Saving money, departments, project managers saving money. You actually need, let's say, 4 VAs. They only hired 3. So
yeah, then the will be serious, of course. That's it.
Right now. All right, folks on the phone, any questions?
Subhash?
Yeah.
I was hoping if we could look at the UI screenshots so that I can make some improvements on it. Thank you.
You just put it here?
No, up, yeah, a little bit. Yep, that's the one.
Yeah, this is good. This is good. So how difficult was working on this?
Sorry?
Was it easy? Was it easy creating this?
Yeah. It was easy, but it was more confusing. A lot of the stuff that I wrote on FRD did not make sense while building this UI. So I had to make some changes on the FRD. So.
Okay. This is just a lookalike. That's good. I think I like this.
I think I misunderstood you. So I was thinking that we should submit the working prototype, the system as a whole today. So I was trying to make all the buttons and the dates and all the.
That's good. I would love to see that as well. Did I actually show you the display maintenance screen? No, right?
Yeah.
I think she's close to what I asked for. Hold on, let me show you the actual screen.
Sure.
I think you are pretty close.
Because we made our FRD based on I made my FRDs based on your screen. I had to create a screen that looks like yours, just to match up with my FRD.
So I think you're pretty close, right? So this is the screen. Of course, if there is an existing address, it will show it. You enter all the details, you submit, you verify, and then you're on the confirmation page. So I think you're pretty close.
I was trying to make the address the exact address that the user enters to display on this screen, but it took a lot of time, so I just wrote it right now just to show it.
This is good. I think overall I'm satisfied.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Rohel, right? Hey, Rohel, are you there? Okay, I don't think he's there. All right, folks, then. Thank you very much. I'll see you. Okay, go ahead and ask the question.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so how many VAs are there in a typical organization?
There is no specific number that I can give. That depends on how complex the project is. How complex the project could be. It could be 1 or 2 or multiple periods.
is there conflict among the BAs?
There could be conflict. You basically have to sit through, understand what the issue is. Okay, so if there is a conflict between business analysts, normally, first of all, if I have a conflict with any individual in the team, I would basically go to him, talk to him, identify what the conflict is, and then I'll try to get a resolution. And if he doesn't want to cooperate or agree, then I have no choice. I have to go to it. I mean, do whatever you have to do to resolve the conflict. Then
after you complete the project.
All of you, please pay attention here.
So after you complete a project, right? You do it, and then will that be a simulation of the project?
What do you mean by simulation?
Simulation is like a you're doing it like a virtual test. You're simulating that actual scenario.
That's the load testing that we call load testing.
Go ahead. Okay, the agile methodology can work only to provide additional features. No.
You could implement the application using any method.
Okay. Right. So you already probably answered this. I said who decides, which module be designed by which BA. Right. You already said that. In agile, for example, iteration, right? Range. Who's getting what? By project manager.
Project manager.
Okay. In a financial, let's say an insurance company, these sprints are solved for the company itself, or
what do you mean by?
I don't know. When I was watching the video, I wrote it down. Okay. In a financial problems, instance or institution, financial instance. Okay. These sprints, we're talking about the sprints, are solved for the company itself.
Of course.
Can you just
explain what the question is?
Yeah. Okay, I'll keep that. Yeah. But you understand? No. Okay. All right. I did it. Okay. That's long before. On multiple projects, you already answered that. Is BA project manager, or are BAs the project manager's right hand, or?
Okay. So your question is, in what way is a business analyst going to support the project manager? In a number of ways. You could be helping him, put the meetings together. Sometimes the project manager may need help preparing a plan. I mean, he's going to give you all the inputs and you have to put the plan together. Or in some instances, you may have to help him prepare some reports and charts. Or PPTs, right? PPTs and Word documents. Yeah.
Project manager is in the a scenario, right? Right?
Oh, yeah.
Your design.
Nice. All right, folks. I think I'm done for the day unless anybody has questions.
Is tomorrow the last day?
No. Why you don't like these classes anymore?
Just asking.
No. We'll have, I think, one more class. Okay. All right, folks. Thank you very much. Bye.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How's everything with you?
Doing good.